After you install the call manager, you have to turn it on. Now, I'm not talking about physically pushing the button. I'm talking about activating the services. It used to be that when you would install Call Manager, it was like installing Office, where you're like, I want Excel. No, I don't want a Microsoft Access. I don't want Microsoft PowerPoint or whatever. You would choose what options, and Microsoft would literally install those options. With Call Manager, it used to be that way. Now it installs everything, but nothing is active by default. So to initially get to the Call Manager, we're going to type in the IP address. 172.168.176 is the one that I'm using. Takes you to this little clear text application page. We click on the Call Manager, and now it forwards you over to this pre-configured IP address and port number. It uses 8443 as a secure socket port. 90% of what you do is going to be in the Cisco Unified CM administration. This is your land of love when you're configuring the Call Manager. However, initially, when we want to hit this drop-down, you can see the major areas of administration. We're going to go to the serviceability here. Click on that, hit go. Username and password is what we configured during the initial install, and we're in. Now, think of this as under the hood of the Cisco Call Manager. You can configure alarm. It's like troubleshooting, digging deep kind of section. But initially, we want to go to the tools, service activation, and I see all of the services that are available to me in the Call Manager. Now, I'm not going to go through each one of these one by one and explain what they do, because we're going to go through these as we unpack this series. And if I just do a laundry list, you're going to forget it all anyway. What I'm going to do initially is, you can see CM services. Think of these first services here as like the core. These are the ones that run the Cisco Call Manager day to day. Now, you're probably not going to need all of them, but I'm going to check them all and click this save button, because this will get us going. For instance, we're going to talk a little bit later about configuring Call Manager as a DHCP server. Not many people do that, so you can leave the DHCP monitor service inactive, and that's what Cisco recommends. Don't activate a service unless you need it, and understanding what these services do is going to be a part of that. So again, as we continue through the series, I'll be defining each one of them. The second thing I'm going to do as a post-installation procedure is to go in and change the reliance on DNS. Now, more on this when we get into the actual configuration of the phones, but let me head over here from serviceability back to the administration, hit the go button. I'm going to go to the system menu and choose server. Now, this is where it lists all of the servers that exist in the Call Manager cluster. Now, sometimes it doesn't come up with this list by default, so I'm going to click on find, and we'll actually list all of the servers that are in my cluster. My cluster of one, right? I've got one server, and its name is CUCM. I'm going to change that to the IP address. Again, more on that quite a bit later, because this eliminates the reliance on DNS. If I leave it at CUCM, or whatever name I chose during the installation of Call Manager, all the phones are going to have to contact that Call Manager by its name. When I update this, and I can click on save, it's going to say, warning, this is going to update this. This could cause problems if you do this wrong. But when I change this to the IP address, now all the phones will say, oh, I don't need to figure out who CUCM is. I can just go straight to this IP address and communicate with the Call Manager directly. Opens a big can of worms and a big discussion on what's better, DNS or IP addresses directly. I'll unpack that more when we get to configuring the phones. That gets Call Manager ready to accept phones, registration, and diving into all the rest of the configuration that we're going to do. So, for now, I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.